Benson. Before the center, the National Center for Biotechnology Information was a center, it was a branch, and Dennis was here before any of us and was really responsible for building the entire infrastructure upon which we exist today. He was one of the originators of the Gen Info system, which many of you already have accounts on, and he'll talk a little bit about that today. The second lecturer is Dr. Jim Ostel, formerly Jim Pustel, who is the author and sole programmer of the famous IBI Pustel package, recently reincarnated as Mac Vector, and we're lucky to be able to have someone like him tell you about the future of biological sequence databases. Dennis?
Thank you, Mark. There is one handout back there that it would be nice if you have a copy in front of you as I go through some of the overheads. It's going to be a little bit difficult to read some of the database records. So it's the handout that's titled Sample PIR Record across the top. Well, Jim and I are splitting this lecture. As the title indicates, we're to talk about biological databases, past, present, and future. I'll attempt to cover the past and go up to the present. Jim will take us from the present on to the future. The biological databases I'm a little bit leery of. That's a pretty ambitious scope. So I think that really what I'm talking about are molecular biology databases. What I'd like to try to cover in the next 45 minutes, really three things. To give you a sense of the types of molecular biology databases there are. So we'll do a quick run through of a number of different databases that you might not be acquainted with. Then to go into some detailed examples of looking at the record structure of some of the databases you may have used, but may not have paid attention to the structure of those databases, typically the sequence databases. And then finally to mention some sources for database information. I think one thing that's always a little bit troublesome when you talk databases is that the distinction between a database and access to a database is sometimes not very clear. You can take a database like GenBank, for example. GenBank is essentially a mag tape, a set of data. It doesn't do too much for somebody to try to plow through 120 megabytes of data on a tape. Therefore, you need a means of accessing that database. And therefore, there's several services, several systems available for actually getting access to that database. Then on the other hand, there are some databases where you can't actually put your hands on a magnetic tape version or electronic version of that database. Examples are the old HTML and now GDB up at Johns Hopkins. The only way to get to that data is via database access. So it's important, I think, to keep the distinction in mind, database versus database access. And what I'll mention at the end is a few services, some free, some for charge, that you can get access to get to the data.